Chapter 28, Part 2. So buckle your seatbelt, it's quite the ride, and we'll see you on the other side. Femke van der Waal was the kind of girl that left a lasting impression on you. Klaus often compared her personality to nothing other than the Black Widow. Perhaps it was the trait that had drawn him to her. After all, it was his passion, his hobby. He understood spiders and how they looked at the world. Femke, in body and soul, possessed a remarkable resemblance to the female Black Widow. Her legs seemed to stretch on for days, and her flat belly was decorated with an infinity tattoo, mirroring the arachnid's hourglass insignia. Klaus knew that in the long run, he'd be bitten in the ass. Femke seemed intent on destroying his very soul, just as the female widow does her male counterpart after she mates with him. Like the female widow, Femke's web was sporadic, not symmetrical. No, Klaus was in her snare. To a woman, the model was as transparent as a used car salesman. The snobbier women in town tolerated her. The smarter women kept their distance. Klaus knew how the men looked at her. Minutes earlier, Timo had come to the shop to let him and Mano know that the American had arrived. That the lad was with Femke down at the Bundys. When Klaus heard the news, he didn't like the sound of it. Immediately, he thought about her laughing and cooing away, batting her eyes at the American, making a damn spectacle of herself, attempting to seduce the new kid in town. He pictured himself walking in the flat and catching them in the act. Then he stopped himself. "You're going to drive yourself crazy, lad." When he'd entered this flat to a room of giggles, the rock star gangster found the couple simply sitting at the dinner table drinking coffee and talking. Maybe they had smoked a joint, he wasn't sure. Her cheeks were certainly a bit rosy, but other than that, nothing out of the ordinary seemed to be taking place. "Sweetheart," she said, somewhat startled, clasped a hand in the cookie jar and looked. "I didn't hear you come up." Klaus patted over and gave the model a kiss. "I see you've met the American," he said unenthusiastically. To William, he then said, "Klaus the Cracker." As the rock star gangster shook William's hand, he noticed the American's strong, callous grip. "Timo has told me Tachi will be spending much time with us." In Dutch, Femke said, "He'll be staying in the room next to us, Klaus. Isn't that cool?" Klaus then said something back to Femke in a derogatory tone, which caused them to start hurling obscenities to each other. Klaus turned back to the American. "Come, we go now. There's much work to do." "If you're waiting on me, you better back up, brother." The rockstar gangster wasn't sure what William meant by that, but he figured it had something to do with the bickering. He badly wanted to get downstairs and roll a joint and have a couple of drinks to take the damn edge off. "I was thinking that perhaps we go downstairs to the pub first. Then we go to the coffee shop." William said that sounded good. He said goodbye to Femke as politely as possible, taking care not to provoke further interaction between the quarrelsome couple. Klaus the Cracker hurried the American down the staircase. That one day he would have to let her go. Femke was just too much for him. To the American, then Klaus said, "So what do you think of Holland so far?" "It's a lot different. You got a lot of farms over here, and the shit y'all smoke ain't nothing like we smoke back home. Y'all's is a lot stronger. Timo likes to smoke to hashish. I like to weed, you know. L'herbe. Your girlfriend's real beautiful." "Yeah, she is, how you say, a hot woman?" William raised his eyebrows. "She is, however, the biggest bitch in the world." Sorry to hear that. Klaus was starting to think that he might like the American after all. The rock star gangster led him back into the pub, to a semi-packed house. Metallica's Fade to Black played at an ear-crunching level. Dozens of hippies enjoyed themselves, smoking weed and drinking beer. Exotic-looking women navigated the floor, flirting with the men along the way. Were they prostitutes? William wondered. Along the bar, different colored liquids filled an assortment of glassware. Beer bottles like you've never seen, of all shapes and colors and sizes. Although William couldn't understand a word spoken throughout the room, he never felt threatened. Klaus found a vacant spot at the bar, and they took up residence. William watched as the rock star gangster spoke to the people around him as if he'd known them his whole life, not in the least bit shy with his gestures and pronunciations. And like clockwork, one by one, the beers piled up in front of them. Agostino Macaringue, the African he'd met earlier, popped tops off of beer bottles and poured liquor at every turn. He accepted the occasional hit from someone in the crowd. Damn, was that allowed? William wondered. For some time, William observed the Mozambican, who seemed to know every nook in his workspace. Agostino brought yet another round of drinks over to Klaus and the American and announced, "On the house, my friends." So it went on like this for a while. The next one's on me. No, I got this one. Round after round, many different colored bills were exchanged. Alcohol in bags and blocks of hash. William watched as Klaus pulled out a small stainless steel container. From inside the canister, a pretty bud of weed emerged. William had never seen anything like it. Man, look at that. Ja, just a silver haze. I've growed it for myself, no? The rock star gangster held the bud up in the lights. T-Man and I smoked some of that, but it didn't look like that. That looks different. Perhaps I have learned a few secrets myself. Really? William said. Hey, maybe you can teach me a thing or two. Natürlich, just not the problem. You know something, Klaus? So far, everybody I met speaks real good English. I was a little bit surprised at that. We must have learned it as the kinderen, you know, the children. Yeah, the countries in Europe sit very close together, you see. We must know many languages, yeah. It's better this way. William thought back to the 11th grade when he had to choose between Spanish and French. The usual one-year requisite to graduate high school. Back then, everybody complained about it, but they had no idea how easy they had it. These people knew all kinds of languages. Klaus continued to clean his homegrown super weed. I will tell you this, you must be very careful to only take so much of the smoke. You must, how you say, make pace for yourself. The young American took a drag and kept it in as long as he could. Definitely one-toke stuff, he said to himself. He was instantly put into another world. It is good, eh? I heard that, William wheezed. Everything in the room spun for the span of a moment, like slow motion, but not an amplification of sorts. Then, without warning, he heard the music. People are strange when you're a stranger, when you're alone. Vox Continental organ piping away, Fender bass keyboard. House, is it always so crowded in here? The Bundy's this big party, eh? We will spend much time here, you shall see. This place rules, William said. You must wait, it shall be much crazy later. The combination of alcohol and pot had finally hit home. William mumbled to Klaus, I think I might need to get some air. Come, we go to the coffee shop. When they crossed the threshold at Dykestraat 33, William looked like he was going to barf. You need the coffee, Klaus said. Ah, yes. Mano has seen us arrive.